Welcome on into Daggerheart characters. My name is Steve, and today we are going to we're going to look at a new class that I just created. It uses a domain that I've created, a homebrew domain called the Mimic domain. There are links in the description to the sheet that you're looking at, which can always get updated based on feedback. If you were to use this in your campaign, give me any feedback that you have on it. I can always update things if things are a little bit over underpowered, whatever the case may be, based on that feedback. There will be a link to the Mimic domain. There's a write-up just like this on a spreadsheet that you on a Google Word doc that you can get access to if you want to, print that out, use it, as well as a link to the video where I go over the Mimic domain. In this video, we're going to go over this domain, and then we're going to create a character using it. And I was about an hour into a video when I realized that I wanted to change. You get a choice of domain. At each subclass has a choice of 2 different domains that you can choose from. I had the blood domain as one of the choices for like the more spellcasty subclass, and the thing is that I didn't really remember when I made that decision that I did have a fair bit of influence and like blood domainy-ish type of things already in the Mimic domain. A few too many. Felt like there's a little bit too much overlap. The whole point of being able to choose from those classes was to cover some areas that maybe the Mimic domain didn't quite touch, because Mimic, Chameleon, the whole idea ultimately of what this character can be to your party is to fill up a couple of roles. So like when I create the character, I am going to imagine that we are working in a party of 4 where there's a bard, a wizard, and a warrior. So we can maybe be like a rogue, rangery tank is kind of the role that we're ultimately going to be able to fill some of those things in. Naturally, there's quite a bit of support and utility as well from the Mimic domain and stuff, so we'll see how much that ends up working in. But that's where I'm trying to go for, is like a rogue tank with maybe some of those... you'll see, there will be a little bit of ranger-esque-ness to the character as well. So I haven't built that character because I had a different character that I also didn't pre-build, but that I had in mind. So that's just a totally brand new thought that I've just kind of quickly whipped up. So we'll get to that after we go over the class. Let's get to the class, the Chameleon class. Chameleons are the ultimate mirrors of the world, shaped by the company they keep and the trials they endure. They move through life both as student and shadow, silently absorbing the skills, traits, and essence of those around them to transcend their own limits. While they are masters of disappearing into the background, a chameleon's true power is revealed when they step into the light, refracting everything they have learned back at the world with breathtaking precision. Your domain is going to be, of course, the Mimic domain, and then we are going to get a choice out of 2 domains when we choose for our part of our foundation features. The starting evasion is 9, starting hit points is 6. Had to really think about this because we are about to get to add 1 to either one of them, so that's why this is on the low end here combined. We are going to either get 10 starting evasion and 6 starting hit points, or 9 starting evasion, 7 starting hit points, depending on how we want to build this character. Our class items are a cloak that shifts color or a mystical ink pen. And the Chameleon's Hope feature, Rogue's Dodge. So this is literally, the same feature that the Rogue gets. Spend 3 Hope to gain a +2 bonus to your evasion until the next time an attack succeeds against you. Otherwise, this bonus lasts until your next rest. Much like the Mimic domain, definitely starts off with some rogue-esque type of features. We are going to get some rogue-esque starting to this class, and then the subclasses is where you can start to branch out a little bit from there into being more, if you choose to go with the martial subclass, being a little bit more tank or a little bit more DPS damage dealing, and then for your spellcasting subclass is going to be between kind of be nature forward, the sage domain, because there's not much of that in the Mimic domain cards, or the Arcana domain, and really go heavy into that sorcerer type of vibe. So There's always going to be like kind of rogue is just where this whole thing starts from, because you think mimic, it's a little bit rogue-esque, being the chameleon of the party. So for your class features, the first thing is that choice that I said. You're going to either be able to get to add a +1 bonus to your evasion or +1 bonus to your base hit points. This might be based on the history of your character, their backstory. What does it kind of lend itself towards? This is once again a character, a class, a domain where it's very much about learning things from your past and those shaping who you are now, and then projecting that forward into the future to make things better for yourself and your party. So that's part of how you can make this decision, or you could just make it based on what you think is going to be best for your build, or maybe they work in cohesion would probably be the idea. Then you get sneaky, gain advantage on rolls made to hide. Just a general advantage on rolls made to hide. And the cool trait here is preparation. At the beginning of your session, roll your preparation die, which is a d12. Once per session, you may change the result of a hope die to the result of your preparation die. This can result in a critical success. So obviously, if you are fishing for that critical success, it could always come at a time where it's not really that important. It could come at a time where you succeeded on the roll anyways, and now you've passed up other opportunities where you could have turned failures into successes and helped yourself out in other ways. So, there's obviously cons to trying to fish. You could end up never actually rolling to get a critical success. That's always a possibility. So, that's how this worked, and I think part of your decision, if you roll a 1 on your preparation die, then you're probably just going to be fishing for that critical success, or maybe there will be a story beat where you want to fail, and you could turn it into a failure for the fun of it. But that is how that works. Your chameleon subclasses are either the Martialist or the Sorcerer. If you want to play the Martialist, it's because you want to improve your combat skills. Your spellcast trait is going to be Strength. Your foundation features are your martial domain. Choose a second starting domain and gain the respective features. So if you choose the Blade domain, you gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls made with your weapon. And if you were to choose the Valor domain, you gain a +1 bonus to your armor score. And Unwavering, gain a +1 bonus to your damage thresholds. Your specialization feature is Distraction. When an adversary attacks an ally within very close range, mark a stress to force disadvantage on the attack roll. And your mastery feature is Bravery. You can initiate a tag team roll 1 additional time per session. Additionally, you do not count in the GM's player count when they gain fear after short and long rests. You are so blended in, so nonchalant, so just not there until you are, that you're invisible even to the GM. They're not even afraid of you because they don't even know you're there until you're there, and then they will know that you're there. So yeah, nice little fear mitigation tool there. Sorcerer is the other subclass. Play the Sorcerer to diversify your spellcasting. Your spellcast trait is going to be Finesse. Could be Instinct. Might end up changing that now that we've moved to Arcana and Sage instead of Blood and Sage. But there was a reason that I ended up changing it to Finesse. I don't know. Maybe we'll just make it Instinct. I think it's just because Finesse has some nice cohesion with, trying to hide and stuff. But Arcana and Sage, it feels more instinct-driven, right? So I think we'll just go with Instinct. The Sorcerer domain, choose a second starting domain card and gain the respective feature. If you choose the Arcana domain, you gain a permanent +1 bonus to your spellcast rolls. If you choose the Sage domain, gain a permanent +1 bonus to your stress slots. You also get Self-Reliance. Once per rest, when you utilize an experience, you can mark a stress instead of spending a hope. Just once per rest. Because you also get Prestidigitation, right? So, tried to balance this out. I thought about this, worked on this quite a bit, and this seems to be pretty balanced. So Prestidigitation is where you can perform harmless, subtle magical effects at will. Change something's color, create a scent or smell around in an area. You could light a candle. You could probably light a little bonfire, cause a tiny object to float, to illuminate a room, or repair a small object. Just little harmless effects. Your specialization features are Accomplished. take an additional domain card of your level or lower from a domain you have access to. And perfect recall. Once per rest, when you recall a domain card in your vault, you can reduce its recall cost by 1. These are directly a wizard's features. Once again, this is a very much all-encompassing kind of thing going on. And your mastery features are rapid regeneration, touch a creature and spend a hope. That creature heals 1 hit point. And durable, gain a +3 bonus to your severe damage threshold. That is it for the class and the subclasses, so I hope you like those. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Give me any kind of feedback that you have. It's always appreciated. I love it, especially when people tell me that they are going to be using these in their campaigns. That's so cool. You know, I'm just kind of doing this for fun and putting it out there, spending a little extra effort because I figure if I'm going to put the effort into creating it, I might as well put a little extra effort and share it, no matter how many people end up coming across it. It's pretty cool when it comes to use. So that's going to bring us to the character, which hopefully this is still working good, because part of the reason that took an hour was I had to recreate my character sheet because it like froze up on me. All right. So maybe I would have changed this. This is a Ridgeborn Giant. I was originally thinking of going with like a fairy. So my original idea was in like 2 different in terms of being like a tanky rogue thing, but it was like blood domain, little, you know, a little darker. It was a very cool build, but once again, there's just a little too much overlap. So we're just gonna keep this as the Ridgeborn Giant, but I will say, you know, I think fairy, given that +2 bonus to the evasion, and then we could have put another 1 into our evasion instead of taking a hit point for that class feature. Would have definitely been a fun route. We could have gone here as well for this, but here we go. So our party is made up of a wizard, a warrior, and a bard, right? And so part of the reason that we want to know that is there are mimic domain cards where we can borrow the skills of our members. We can use their domain cards in very short wording. And I think we'll probably dip into that. So that's part of the reason I wanted to know that. Also because the heart of this whole class is really to help to fill the voids that are missing on your team. You'll have the ability to kind of, you know, Frankenstein and be you know, not a full tank, but be tanky enough for a team that maybe doesn't really have a tank here, and be a little bit of a rogue for, once again, a team that doesn't have rogue. So that's the route we're going to go. This is the first level. I have not chosen my domain cards yet. I have one that I think I'm going to end up keeping from the previous build. So, yeah, Ridgeborn Giant. We can move around. We get that extra hit point, which is going to be nice, and we'll then be able to maybe invest elsewhere in some of our resources. But we're going to start out real tanky for first level, especially considering we took Gambus Armor, which gave us a +1 to our evasion, so that brought our evasion from 9 to 10. We got a +1 to our armor slot because we are going to be using the Valor domain as our second domain. So that was the subclass feature. And then I chose to go 2 in strength because that's our spellcast trait, and you know, we want to hit pretty hard. And we're a giant. And then 1 in finesse because we are going to be a little bit sneaky. We have, you know, the ability to hide well. We have we're going to get a cloak feature here soon. So those are reasons also why we could not go a finesse. But we're Ridgeborn, so that's going to help with our agility, and I think we're going to end up investing all these. And then I did go instinct here because I think this is a character who's probably, based on how I created, the original backstory was kind of an outlaw who lives on their own, might even have a warrant out for their arrest. So we got like the Master of Disguise for when we do have to go into town and do some things. The MacGyver Scavenger would make the most out of the resources that we have and the tools that we have, or make tools out of stuff. The tracker ability, because, we're mostly hunting out for our own food and then probably selling pelts and stuff when we go into town, that kind of character. So -1 to presence. When we're selling our pelts, we're not an actual merchant. We're just kind of, maybe we got a shop that we supply or something like that. It's just a side gig for a little bit of money, for a little bit of probably going to the bar and drinking or something like that kind of money. And then we've got 0 in knowledge, because I did want that analysis, comprehension. I wanted a little bit more of that than presence for this character, based on this MacGyver scavenger-esque ability that we have. We analyze and comprehend everything that we have to make whatever kinds of tools that we are in need of in our life. I chose just ahead of time, I'm thinking, because we're going to be asked to do some of those roguey things, we're probably going to be getting involved in a little bit of thievery. I know, a big giant, not always the most sneakiest, but we are sneaky. So we're going to be a little bit of thieving, and then I've got your back, which is definitely going to work with the Valor domain here. So maybe it would have even worked going a different route, but at the end of the day, I think the I've got your back is going to be part of this character's becoming a part of a party, instead of being a lone ranger like we start out as. So I kind of wanted to show a little bit of that probable evolution of this character that I would expect to go on by the end of the campaign. So our Gambeson armor is the armor that we chose, which gives us 5. Then we got a +1 for our level, and then +1 for our subclass Unwavering feature, and then 11 +1 to 13. So once again, some decent thresholds, considering we're also giving ourselves that +1 to our evasion. And then we have a mace. So this is basically like we're wearing leather, which I think once again would probably fit this character outdoors and hunting. A little bit more about mobility and hiding than about brute. But once we come out of hiding and close the gap, we are fairly brutal, very strong, hitting hard. We got that mace, and we have a shield, because I guess there are bigger giants than us. So the shield will give us that +1 armor slot. Once again, we do want to be a little bit of a tank for our party, so I thought that armor slot would be helpful. We got a bunch of hit points, too, to work with, so I think this is working out here pretty well in terms of being able to tank to at least a certain extent for our party. Hopefully, between our wizard and our bard, they can do a little bit of crowd control and stuff when necessary. And then, like I said, our mace, because that's our one-handed weapon, deals physical damage. We'll probably get, at second level, we'll almost certainly take Leech, which is a Mimic Domain card, which will allow us to steal some life force, recover a hit point or stress at times. I think we've covered it all. I got the Ruins of Fortification, because that's what I chose for the last character, and I figured it'll probably make sense for this character. So when I do level up, all I do is I just add 1 weapon per tier, because I get to choose what weapon, and, depending on your campaign, you're not always going to be able to upgrade everything totally. So that way I'm just not over-tuning the character. I've got our specialization and masteries pre-written there, so let's move on to our first level domain card decisions. I've already made up my mind. We're going to go with Environmental Blend, which is spend a hope to blend into your local environment. You become cloaked. While cloaked, you remain unseen if you are stationary when an adversary moves to where they would normally see you. So, we often might have to wait for a deer to get in close before we go for the kill for our food. After you make an attack or end a move within line of sight of an adversary, you are no longer cloaked. And we'll use that cloak of ours for our class feature. We get a cloak that shifts colors to help blend into our environment. And then we do have the option to take weapon proficiency, use a different character trait for an equipped weapon rather than the trait that the weapon calls for, which is always nice for a campaign where you're just kind of maybe getting random weaponry as you go along, so you can use the best weapon that your team has available to you. Or just, once again, it's all about versatility and adaptation. And then you do get a bonus to your damage rolls on top of that. And Imitate person is going to be, I think, the second domain card that we're going to choose. So you can disguise yourself, your voice, or your handwriting to impersonate that of another individual until the end of the scene. Once again, we're maybe working on the... we might be wanted by law enforcement or something, so this is going to make a lot of sense. Now, that's why I took Master of Disguise. So I'd actually probably go like Thief here, and then something else here. I don't know. Use your imagination. I guess it would depend on where the campaign takes us, but honestly, it might have something to do with presence, show some growth in that department. This is kind of a lot about versatility. I don't know. Barterer? Maybe our bartering skills improve a little bit. Maybe we're asked to do that. I think that would be a good skill set in case we are ever, trying to infiltrate and a guard stops us or something like that. Having that ability to lie and potentially get away with it would be helpful. So I think barter or something along those lines, maybe just liar, deceiver, could help us with that. Although... read the rest of this. Effectiveness is based on your familiarity with the subject. If you are semi-vaguely familiar with them, mark a stress to roll an additional d4 and presence checks made to deceive while we're in disguise, or disguising our voice or our handwriting to see how good of a job we did with it. If we're very familiar with the target that we are trying to maybe imitate, we can mark a stress to roll with advantage on presence checks made to deceive. We are a giant, so hopefully we're not trying to imitate a small human being at any point. I'm sure this world has more than just human beings in it, but I think that's going to be the choice, imitate person. However, there's definitely some good choices, for the Valor domain. Bare bones would be nice. We're just going to go with getting some armor, though, and stuff. I am your shield, obviously, would be nice in terms of wanting to help to tank more, and forceful push would be good for some crowd control. Definitely would be good. Once again, we're trying to fill that... We can just sit there and take damage. We're just a big boy who can just beef out some damage. I think we want to fill out some of that rogue stuff first here, and then we'll get maybe a little bit more into some of that. So let's go with imitate person. And then we'll be able to move on to our second level. Ooh. All right, imitate person, second level. We get some choices. We're going to go with strength. We're going to upgrade our, I guess our finesse here. Because I think we're going to come back and upgrade more. I think let's upgrade our evasion right out of the gate at second level as well. And then for our domain card, like I said before, I think we'll go with Leech. This is make a spellcast roll against target within close range. On a success, the target takes d6 plus 1 magic damage using your proficiency. If one or more damage dice land on a 6, clear a hit point or a stress. So we do get to... this is less about the damage, but it is nice to have a magical damage option since we're going to be using physical weapon. Certainly, since we're going to take Leech, probably here. But the ability to clear a hit point or a stress is going to be really helpful for our tanking abilities, and we don't have a lot that's going to ask of stress, at least early so far. So, that's something where maybe... every now and then we do recap a stress, but that way we don't have to, in a short rest, we don't have to recover our stress, and instead we can recover, of course, our armor slots, or maybe even gain a hope in order to help us get a +2 to our evasion more often with that rogue's dodge. So I'm looking for the second level domain cards. Body Basher, we've got a wizard who's maybe going to be helping us on infiltration missions with some of their spells, and then maybe also focusing on DPS. So maybe those are kind of the two things that the wizard's trying to fill. I don't know. Are there wizard spells? I think you get Fireball soon. There's some DPS coming. And Bold Presence would certainly be nice, but I think we've got a bard in our group. We're a little less concerned about that. That's a trait that, once again, will improve because Maybe we're going to get caught a couple of times, and we're going to have to work with the bard in our free time on learning how to lie right. So yeah, we'll go with leech. That will work. And then once again, we're maybe we've gotten ourselves into trouble not being able to lie, so we're starting to talk to the bard and doing some night sessions with them. We want to learn. We're observers. We're learners. That's what we do. It's how we improve ourselves. And then we will go with 1 in instinct, 1 in agility, and I don't think anything costs... Does anything cost a stress for us right now? Environmental blend costs a hope. Does cost a stress to imitate. You know, how often are we actually doing that? Make a spellcast roll. So I think we'll just get a little bit more tanky while we're at it here, at the lower levels. And let's see what we do with our 3rd level domain card. Hold up. I think this is those were our 3rd level ups, right? Because we had already increased our strength and our finesse. So that was our 3rd level up. Unless we change our mind based on a card that we take. Gosh, I'm sorry, I got tabs I don't need open apparently. Critical inspiration, lean on me will be good. I think our warrior might be able to take on a little bit of this type of role for critical inspiration. Lean on me, clear 2 stress. Not bad. I don't mind either of them for sure. I also wouldn't mind going back for something, really anything, even I am your shield down there. 3rd level, yeah, but borrower, I think we're just going to take, because I want to highlight that, and just put it into some use. Adaptable. After a rest, or when you place this card into your loadout, choose a trait, gain a +1 bonus to your trait until your next rest. So, you know, especially if we had taken bare bones, I mean, that would be really nice, and put that into our strength, hit more reliably, and gain another armor slot, help our, you know, both of those at once, certainly would be nice. We're a little bit less concerned about hitting too hard. Yeah, I think we're just going to go with borrower, and we might end up taking an extra domain card, but for borrower, we've got warrior, wizard. Where are our domain cards? So, Codex, Grace, no, Blade, and Bone. I'm looking at Bone and Blade, honestly, at this point. Probably. Deceiver, we've got that ability, kind of. Now, let me just make sure. So, it definitely would not be opposed. We're trying to be an infiltrator. If our wizard took Slumber, Arcane Barrage, and Telepathy, or Mysterious, you know, really any of these, they could be useful to us. Our bard could also be the one that's taking on a little bit of a rogue role. So I guess we do have like some roguey characters. So maybe we want to focus a little bit more. Well, okay, we've got infiltration down. So we can definitely focus on becoming... Yeah, I think we've got infiltration stuff locked down pretty well. It's probably time for us... What are we at? 3rd level? To focus on... Let's do it. Bone and Blade here. I'm partial to deft maneuvers. We have not invested in our agility. You know, strategic approach would make sense if we had any knowledge. We don't. Tactician, we actually have ability later that's kind of similar to Tactician. Scramble would probably make a lot of sense. Does our warrior have that? I mean, I feel like it's a good card. Let's take Scramble. Once per rest, when a creature within melee range would deal damage to you, you can avoid the attack and safely move out of melee range. Now, we can... I didn't read it. We can actually change this, but, you know, this is like the card that we'll probably use most of the time. So after a rest, you may choose a domain card of 3rd level or lower that one of your allies has in their vault or in their loadout and learn it. So if we know we're going on on a mission, an infiltration type of mission, I could go and take one of those wizard spells, one of their codex domain cards, and utilize those in those instances, or I could borrow from the bard. And if we're going into a fight type of situation, then I'll take this card. So this is like going to be my default card. You are able to use it if it was your own ability until your next rest. So it doesn't really matter if it's in the loadout or in the vault, as long as they took the card, one of our allies. If the ability has limited uses once per long or short rest, place this card in your vault after using the ability. You may place it back into your loadout once you've taken the respective short or long rest. The reason that I have that is because you can otherwise change the card out. So if you realize midday or whatever, things change midday, you could spend this 2 stress in order to change up and steal from your wizard and use some of their spells and stuff. So we will, let's just say scramble. Well, we could do this. Scramble as our borrower card. There we go. That'll give us a little bit more life as well. So we're doing good in that department. Could we have moved this hit point and maybe we're trying to, maybe instead we would have gone with the tracker, and maybe we've just improved our thievery skills. So there we go. Now on to 4th level. We've used up our evasion. We've increased these traits. Wouldn't be totally opposed to increasing more, but I think we'll probably go a hit point and a stress next. Yeah, most likely, because we are eventually, well, we might not know it, but we might eventually have an armor that's going to request us to use our stress, or maybe we'll get a weapon that will allow us to use our stress for something at some point. So we'll just invest in that a little bit. And for our 4th level Valor options for our domain card, goad them on, make a presence roll. Okay, we don't really have anything there. Support tank. When an ally within close range fails a roll, you can spend 2 hope to allow them to reroll. That's nice. I do like that. We do want to be a little bit supportive. There are going to be mimic cards that help us there. I also really like Disco Fever here. So quick study. You are a quick observer of those in your company. Take a moment to describe how you're going to draw upon an ally's experience. Spend a hope to gain a +2 bonus to an action roll or reaction roll. And then later on it becomes a +3 bonus. That's always good to... It's basically a freebie kind of blank check of a experience that you have. And then Disco Fever. Make a spellcast roll against all adversaries within close range. Once per rest on a success, your body becomes a dazzling display of flashing lights and colors that temporarily hypnotizes your targets you succeed against. While hypnotized targets cannot use actions or reactions, and attacks made against them are made with advantage. Now that is very similar to a card that our bard might have. We might be able to take this from our bard. It's basically Hypnotic Shimmer in... some ways a little bit advanced beyond it, but very close to Hypnotic Shimmer. So you know what? Let's step up to our party here. Let's start to support our party. We're going to take Support Tank as our 4th level card. Gosh, I can never click the right tab. So that is Support Tank. There we go, baby. We are becoming the tank supporter. All right, at 5th level, we have grown up. Okay, so 2nd level, I think we just improved our round shield. Or 2nd tier, I think we just got a better shield. I'm just going to go with that. So that allowed us to get 4 armor slots. However, that's going to be going up soon, because at tier 3, we're going to just take the Runes of Fortification and really turn ourselves more tanky here. And because this was what I chose for the previous build anyways. So we will take away 1 of our evasions down to 10. And let's just move this up to 7th level. By the end of tier 3, we'll be at 7th level. So 7 plus 17 is 24 plus our 1, We got a 25 here, and then 50 plus 1 would be 51 there, and then 6 plus 2 armor slots, right? Yep. Would be, that's not how math works, would be 8 armor slots that we're able to work with. We've got a good amount of hit points. All right. So, we got all ready with that extra stress now for our runes of fortification, which we didn't know were coming, but hey, now we know. I will... So these were not. So our specialization feature now has changed. We will get distraction. When an adversary attacks an ally within very close range... Oh, here's another reason to have taken that extra stress. Mark a stress to force disadvantage on the attack roll. All right, so distraction it is. So for 5th level, we will upgrade our subclass and get distraction, helping us be more of a support to our allies around us. We're learning, and then mastery is going to be something else. Just for a heads up reminder, our mastery trait is bravery. We can initiate a tag roll, and one additional time per session. Additionally, do not count against for the fear that our GM gains. So we did that, and then we will also increase our traits once here. 4 strength. Let's just get our agility up, because I don't know if we're going to come back. And we do get advantage on rolls to hide. That's about all. A lot of what we'll be using our finesse for anyways. This campaign might be moving out of the marshes and into more city stuff at this point. So, hey, there we go. Well, either way, we like the agility. Okay. You know what? We've still got Ridgeborn. Let's just continue to be a tracker. We want to continue to improve our ability to be tracking and stuff for our squadron on our travels. 5th level domain card options. Armor. We could gain another bonus to our armor slot during a rest. When you choose to repair your armor downtime move, your allies also clear an armor slot, help our allies, or rousing strike once per rest. When you critically succeed on attack, you and all of your allies. So we do have that potential extra critical success that we're going to get every now and then, which helps. I really don't love these, like, you got to critically succeed on an attack. These cards that can only work 12.5% of the time, and so you got to keep it into your loadout, and it might be just completely dead until it gets used. But clearing hit points doesn't hurt. We do have Leech helping us to clear some hit points. At 5th level here, extra crafty, improve our experiences. We are gonna... I forgot, does this tag team roll? No, it doesn't work with our experiences. Alright, but I think something else does. Or cause confusion. This is very similar to a bard card. Turn an adversary within melee range into a mirror image of yourself. Make a spellcast roll of 13. On a success, the target of your spell's appearance is indistinguishable from your own until the end of the scene, or if you choose to end the spell sooner, or if the GM were to spend a fear to end it, like temporary effects work. However, they are not advised to end it until the target of this is aware of their altered physical state. Now, us being a giant, if we were to do this to a much shorter creature mid-fight, they will probably realize that they are suddenly eye level with us. So that would allow them to be immediately aware that their physical state has been altered. Depending on how mean your GM wants to be, they could shut it down immediately then. But that's always true of temporary conditions. You may spend a hope to alert your allies as to which of you is friend or foe, so this is a way to prevent your own teammates from being confused, because if they are confused, then they might hit you. There's a 50% chance that they'll hit you if they're targeting the mirror image of yourself. So as long as yourself and your mirror image are within range of an adversary or an ally's attack, those who are not alerted to your status of friend or foe must flip a coin. So we did not spend a hope to alert everyone. Our own allies target the adversary that looks just like us that we're fighting against, and as long as they're within... Does it say? No, just if they target them, there's a 50% chance that they end up actually targeting us. So on a tails, allies target you, and or adversaries target your mirror image. That's... I like that. I like extra crafty. How much hope are we asking from us? You know, gain a +2 bonus. We want to be extra crafty. At this point, we also got barter. Do we just jump that up? At 5th level, right? We would have gotten that. Maybe we haven't found much use of that. Maybe we'll increase our bartering skills. Because our presence is a -1. So now that'll really make that a little bit more useful to tap into, considering we're probably taking a -1 most of the time that we would be using this. Yeah, there we go. That works. Let's just do that. Why not? Other things look nice too. Did I do, yeah, 6th level time. Let's just, what's that called? What's that called? Extra crafty. We also could have gone down and taken something else. Let's move on to our 6th level cards. We are going to have another option of borrowing. We can I can do that when an attack from a creature causes you to mark 1 or more hit points. You can make a reaction roll using your spellcast trait against the creature. On a success, the creature marks the same number of hit points as you did. If you deal 2 or more hit points of damage to the creature, you can't use this spell again until you finish a rest. I don't mind that. That's like a kind of a once per short rest type of deal, as well as like our scramble when we have that. Well, but extra crafty is not in our, doesn't count against 1, 2, 3. So we don't necessarily need a once per rest thing, but I think that they're nice to have a few of those. When you fail an action roll, your next action roll has advantage. Inevitable feels very, very right for this character. Rise up, you gain a bonus to your severe damage equal to your proficiency. When you mark 1 or more hit points from an attack, clear a stress. You know what? I just love that card. We're going to take Rise Up. It's probably one of my favorites. I think it's such a strong card. Which means, I think, that for our 6th level, we will just increase our proficiency. Now, before... Hopefully I did that correctly. I did our specialization and I added to our traits. Hopefully I didn't add a stress. No, I didn't. Or a hit point. So for 7th level, we could go back and use Borrower if we want. We could take Shrug off. We're not going to take Valor Touch. When you would take damage, you can mark a stress to reduce the severity of the damage by 1 threshold when you roll d6. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good card. Or Mirror Instinct. I think we'll do this, because we're about to increase our evasion again. Yeah, let's take Mirror Instinct. Once per rest, you may mark a stress to copy the fighting stance of an adversary within very close range. Until the end of the scene, you gain a +2 bonus to your evasion against all attack rolls made by the target, and gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls made against the target. What were you called? Mirror Instinct. There we go. So we'll get a little bit more martial. I think at this point, you know, we might need a little bit more consistent damage going out, so that'll help to proc some of that. And then we will also increase our evasion. So we have Rise Up does help us clear more stress. We have Leech, which we can clear a hit point or stress. We could add to our experiences, or have 9 hit points. Eight armor slots. I think, you know, let's just do it. Let's increase MacGyver, and we've invested in that. And I want to make sure that those resources go to plan. So hopefully we're finding some good use out of barter. We'll put 1 more in there, really cancel out that presence. Yeah, there we go. Then we'll start to improve our hit points and stress again, because we got the Ruins of Fortification, which is, you know, the best armor that we can get at this tier anyways in terms of those thresholds. So I think that helped us to maybe get away a little bit with still a decent amount of hit points at this tier anyways. So yeah, that will work. Now it's on to 8th, 9th, 10th level. Let's update that level to 10th level. And let's just update these to get 28 then, and 54 for our damage thresholds. Through the end of the game, we will need to improve our weapon. Where is that? Here. 3rd primary, 4th tier weapon. Strength is our primary stat, and let's see here. What do we want? Primary weapon, 4th tier. On a one-handed weapon, we use our shield. So of course the legendary mace is in play. We want something within melee range, probably, because that's going to deal more damage, and our melee range actually is very close because of reach. So the Impact Gauntlet is a one-handed. This also gives us that knockback feature. I mean, this is the choice. So we will take the Impact Gauntlet, D10 plus 11. Let's go, baby. Impact Gauntlet. Strength, very close. D10 plus 11. Big jump in damage. We needed that. We were lagging behind. Physical damage, and we can spend... Is it a stress cost? So we might want to invest in our stress here. No, hope. Oof. Alright, so spend a hope to knock a target back to far range. And you know what? That's kind of good timing, because right now, maybe our hit points are just barely holding up. This is a good emergency knockback as well, along with just regular, you know, protection and environmental, what am I trying to think of? Crowd control type of thing. So, 8th level. Let's pick out our domain cards here. We got, I cannot choose the right one. Full Surge marks 3 stress. We don't have a whole lot of stress. Gain 2 bonus to all of our character traits. Would be nice. Ground Pound is a 2 hope. Stress, hope. Can I get something that's not going to cost us so much? So I really like Inanimate Object. This is going to help with our infiltration to a sense in a way. But Skillshare is actually where it's going to be. So Inanimate Object's really cool. It's truly just like the mimic ability. Like, you become a mimic. You can turn yourself into an inanimate object, and when somebody comes close, you can lock them down, and then there's just some rules there about the amount of damage that you can do while you have them. Kind of lessens the damage, but a little bit more consistent. You can't hit them with your weapon, basically. And they're, of course, locked down until they break free. Yeah, it's a really, really cool one, but we're going to go with Skillshare. When you help an ally, add one of your experiences to their roll alongside your advantage die. So that was part of why we have been investing in those experiences, right? And when making a tag team roll, you and one ally can roll a d20 as your hope die. And we are going to become mastered, so here you can initiate a tag team roll 1 additional time per session. So we get 2 tag team rolls where we're going to be able to use d20s for our hope die on those tag team rolls. Additionally, you do not count. Additionally, our GM's not going to get a fear for us. So, yeah, Skillshare it is. That's going to work with what we've been doing here. That's why we've been doing some of that. There we go. I don't remember at what level we got that. And then we will go into our mastery, and that is called bravery. And we will improve these for now. 5 strength. I think at this point we will go into that agility. And then that's it for 8th level. 9th level, here we come. Did I not increase my evasion at all through 7th level? Darn. Mirror Instinct increased it. We will increase our evasion at 9th level, as well as a hit point. So I don't think we're going to be able to invest in our stress more. So that's a resource that we don't even have enough to use all of our armor slots. So hopefully our bard is replenishing our stress at times. They can do that. Hold the line would make a lot of sense. That's also part of what that inanimate object feature does. Lead by example. When you deal damage to an adversary, you can mark a stress. Nah, we don't want to mark more stress. So hold the line, describe a defensive stance you take, spend a hope. If an adversary moves within very close range, hold in the melee restrained. This condition lasts until you move or fail a roll with fear. The GM spends 2 fear. Honestly, I think inanimate objects. Well, it's not totally better because you have to set it up. So make a spellcast roll of 15 on a success. Transform into an inanimate object no more or less than twice/half your normal size. If a creature moves within very close range of yourself, while transformed, you may mark a stress to make a reaction roll against the spellcast trait against the creature. Yeah, I think we're going to go with one of these. So we got Borrower and Expert of the Craft. I would love both of those, but we just got that skill share. When we help an ally, we can add an experience. Let's give a +3 to one of our experiences. Expert of the Craft. We'll just put Expert Craft. And, I mean, I guess we'll put that into I've got your back. Yeah, because, I mean, there's so many ways you can utilize that, and we can definitely share. Oops, that should be +5 then. And we can definitely help our allies help someone with I've got your back as well. So, yeah, our experiences are beefy. And for our domain, that was our domain card. For our 9th level, we did not. We chose evasion and a hit point. Is that what we did? So we're on 10th level. I guess let's do that first. 10th level. Probably our proficiency. We got a good weapon now. I think we just go into our proficiency. Help with that steady DPS, because our wizards, for the most part, a little bit flashy when they do deal damage. Then we got a warrior just trying to DPS this thing. All right. 10th level, we get Unbreakable. You mark your last hit point. Instead of making a death move, you can roll a d6 and clear a number of hit points. That would make a lot of sense for this character. Or Unyielding. And then the 10th level cards here are pretty cool. Talent Thief. So we haven't done a whole lot of, Borrow. We just did the one at lower level. And I think we got a lot from that, but this character hasn't been really stealing from even their allies a whole lot, so I don't know that Talent Thief really matches what we've built. But it's pretty cool. Once per long rest, when an adversary within close range uses one of their features, you can spend 2 hope and make a reaction roll against the target using your spellcast trait. On a success, they lose that feature and you gain it. Change any instances of fear to hope and vice versa. If necessary, work with the GM on how the ability will work for your character. This ability may only be used once on a creature. You may only have one stolen ability at a time. There's just some rules about it. And then Apex Predator. When you critically succeed on a weapon attack, gain additional hope or clear an additional stress. Ah, man, that would be helpful too. Additionally, when you deal enough damage to defeat an enemy, you may absorb some of their essence. +1 to our evasion. Roll a d6 and gain a +1 bonus to your correlating trait. Clear hit points. I think we'll go with Apex Predator just because that's part of the mimic and I like it. Or, man, it'd be pretty. What did we do? Did we do anything at 10th level for our... We increased our proficiency. Because it would have been also cool to take that and Unbreakable. Well, you know what? That kind of prevents us, hopefully, from having to tap into Unbreakable so much. Like that and Unyielding Armor. Unyielding Armor, does that... When you would mark an armor slot, roll a number of d6s... I mean, that works well with our... That works well, too, synergetically. For not having to mark an armor slot when we mark... Or not having to mark a stress, since we don't have the most stress. Alright, that, I think, then that's our character. If I didn't screw up on anything, who knows? I might have screwed up. But there's our level 10 character. We've got some decent thresholds here for damage. We've got some decent hit points. Not a whole lot of stress 12 evasion plus our rogue's dodge that we can build upon that, hopefully. And then hopefully that also means we're not having to mark as many armor slots as your typical tank would have to. Our impact gauntlet, going to be dealing some decent damage. We can knock people back. We can do some of the roguey things. We can tank. We can deal some damage. We can actually do some magic with our borrower, and our leech will help us stay up more. Yeah, we got plenty of like resource recovery things along the way. I think we're pretty self-efficient, and then there's the proper tools on our team to help us, and we're going to be helping our allies too. And so, you know, we might not be getting this rogue's dodge up there all the time because we'll be spending that hope helping our teammates plenty as well. There we go. That is our Chameleon Martialist, Ridgeborn Giant. I don't know. What's his name? Sir? I don't know. Let me know if you got a name for this guy. Thank you so much for tuning on in. You have a good one. Peace out.